Thanks for tuning into I'm Not Actually a Gas Station Attendant, episode 11. We have the fellows, well, 3/5 of the fellows from Bev.Clone with us. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, fellas.
I'll go first. Ben played bass in Bev.Clone.
Hey, I'm Jim Lehner. I was a drummer in the band Bev.Clone.
It's Karl here, and I played the guitar during that time in Bev.Clone.
Nice. So, I guess we'll start with, as we often do, your origin stories, so to speak. Like, how did you get into independent music? All that good stuff.
Oh, well, I guess for me in Ben, I was in Bay City, Michigan, and there wasn't much going on there. I always like to refer to it as the crotch of Michigan's thumb. And so, just kind of a boring little, it's kind of touristy town these days and stuff. But a group of us, when I was about 14 or 15, I got introduced to skateboarding. And I think like a lot of people that you've talked to on your show, actually, I've noticed the origin story usually begins near or around skateboarding or with skateboarding.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So then, through skating, I met a bunch of people. We used to have this spot downtown called the Shell. It used to be called the Wall because there was actually a brick like transition that kind of was like made a half pipe between these two buildings that people would skate way back in the day in the 80s. And that was super fun. When I got there, I think that Wall was only up maybe like one summer. So I was learning on it and stuff, but didn't really get very good at skating that. But anyway, a group of us would kind of meet and skate there. And so that's where I kind of got into independent music, DIY music, punk music. Friends would come through and know other people. The hardcore and punk scene and stuff was always super tied to skateboarding in a lot of ways, I think. So, I had some friends when I was a kid that really introduced me to a lot of that music, like Jason Kreska, and we went to high school together, and he really got me into, like, I remember in the same week listening to Slayer, Dead Kennedys, Minor Threat, and just kind of having my socks blown off, to the point where I made a t-shirt with a bunch of bands that I had seen in an ad in Thrasher magazine before even listening to it.
Nice.
So I went downtown to skate with this T-shirt I had made, and it had like the Misfits on it, and the logo, like Black Flag, and the 4 Bars logo, and all this stuff that I put in permanent marker on this white T-shirt. And then I took some green spray paint and spray painted all over the T-shirt too. So to me, when I was 15, man, it was like 88 or something. It looked sweet. I was stoked. I got down there, and Jay was like, "Oh, that's a pretty cool shirt," and some other kids were like, "Yeah, nice shirt." And so I was feeling all good about myself. And then I had turned around to go like skate, and they all started laughing, and I was like, stopped immediately. It was like, "What's going on? What's so funny?" Apparently my mom had taken issue to the fact that I had written Sex Pistols on the back of my t-shirt, and she had taken a permanent marker and turned the E into an I. So my punk rock t-shirt said Six Pistols on it. I think that was kind of like that embarrassment sort of carried me through for the rest of my teenage years in a lot of ways, where it's just like, okay, I can think I'm pretty fucking cool skating and playing music and stuff, but there's my mom's always going to be there to change that E into an I, turn sex into six.
Which there's no way there's not like a Midwestern country rock cover band called Six Pistols somewhere out there, because it's gotta be.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I don't know, Jim?
Yeah, I could introduce myself as a young person from mid-Michigan, Saginaw area. Got into the metal stuff first through cousins and older people, and then when I started skating, same deal. Friends and people I knew through that were more into punk stuff, so I got some pretty cool tapes, you know, DRI, this and that kind of stuff. You know, a little thrash metal, crossover. And then, when I was 14, I was already playing drums. My neighbor had a drum set. I just started going over there and doing it. You know, it's like I already knew how to do it. It wasn't too much to it. And I was like, yeah, this is it. I know how to drum. I want to be in bands. I want to play metal. I want to play punk. I want to skate. And then my sister, at the last day in New Year's Eve 1990, becoming 91, she took me down to Flint to see a show in the Capitol Theater basement. Just a punk trashy place that Repulsion used to play at. Like, everyone played there. And it was my first show, my first time ever seeing like live bands that were kind of cool, not like a polka band at a wedding or a Beach Boys or some shit, you know. So yeah, the bands were The Process. They're still around. They're from Detroit now, but back then they were from Vassar, up in the thumb, and kind of like a punky reggae, kind of just, I don't know, they're not that good. They've never been that good. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. But fuck it, they're still around, so at least they're sticking to their thing. You gotta admire that. So I saw absolutely. The Process, and then another band. I was like, The Process is kind of lame. No one's moshing out in a mosh. You know, The Process is kind of lame. What's going on? This sucks. And then the next band played. They were called Ninja High School. Kind of grungy punk, just random. Pretty cool. And they were getting people moshing. I was like, this is it. This is my scene. This is my crew. These are my people. If I got to come down to Flint to do it, cool, man. I'll just work it out. You know, so that was the first show. And it's funny because my sister, that was her second show at this place, and 2 or 3 nights before, she went and saw Scotty, who is not here, his old band, The Methods, and she brought back this tape. She's like, Jim, here's this tape. I saw this band last night, went with these girls from Bay City, Ashley and Katie. And,
no way.
Yep, and then she's like, gives it to me, and I look at it, and it, you know, The Methods, it was kind of just, you know, a 4-track recording, but punk, you know, Xerox covered tape. And she's like, it was a real band. They were good. I'm going to take you to this place in a couple of nights. I'm like, all right, well, if my mom didn't let me, I'll go. You know, of course, because she was going, they let me go. So that was the night. New Year's Eve, 90, I was just like, wow, punk's on. And I, you know, started going to more shows. The next show was Suicidal Tendencies in Queensryche, in Saginaw. Pretty cool show. Queensryche sucked, but Suicidal was awesome. And I was like, this is it. I'm in this. And I'm 46 now, and I'm still in it. I don't do nothing different. I just do it the same way, you know.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
How scary was Suicidal?
Awesome. Mike Murr was wearing these white spandex shorts, you know. He shorts, and he was just doing his strut and looking creepy, and the guitars were like feedbacking and wailing before they even started. And once they started, man, the place just went crazy. People flying all over. I was like, this is it. This is where I belong, you know.
Nice.
And Queensryche sucked. You know, that's not where I belong, but that's how it goes. You know, a band that's kind of getting washed out will bring a band that has some fresh energy and some new vibe, you know, to get it going. So that's just what it was.
The neighbor who had the drums, was that Nate, Jim, or?
Nope, my neighbor that had the drums is a guy named Josh Bringer, and he just died a couple weeks ago, man. My old buddy from my neighborhood. I don't know how he died, but yeah. So Josh, thanks Josh, and the memory for getting me into drums and having that old Ludwig kit with good cymbals and trading me my first snare drum for a BMX bike, you know. But no, Nate got me into punk. I know you know Nate. Everybody knows Nate in a way. And Nate was my good friend in preschool, elementary, junior high, all that. And Nate always like had skateboards and skate gear and tapes and all. He was like the guy to get the music from, because he always, you know, he would see the ads and order the tapes, and he had like a good collection, you know. So
yeah.
Some of that stuff I heard through Nate. DRI, Dead Kennedys. He was the guy that kind of had that stuff, and I was like, cool, man. I only been into metal, but this stuff's cool too. You know, has a funner vibe, or you know, it's not so scary and serious. It's something I can relate to more. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely. Much love to Nate Ling.
Yep, guy's awesome. Seen him a couple years ago, still doing good. He's cool.
Hey, what's the band that did like that Dead Cops album? It was like
MDC.
MDC. So that was one of my first introductions. Karl talking, but was getting this crazy MDC 7-inch that just scared the fuck out of me and my friend Mike. Like, our junior year in high school, we would go down to this record store in Saginaw, Old Town, and buy records from this old hippie and just like ask him to get shit for us. And like we'd go to all the shitty record stores in Saginaw just looking for whatever. Once we realized oh, there's all this other music. So I was growing up in Saginaw, like this is like 80s, and even prior to that, like I was drawn in by a neighbor who had drums, and then like once I was introduced to like skate culture and like I was just sort of like the music around that was so compelling, and like I heard Black Flag and I was like, oh my god, I kind of missed every opportunity to see them, but somebody eventually introduced me to going down to Flint. So man, once I learned about the Capitol Theater and I was like saw like, oh, there's regular people just creating bands, like I was like super into it, but it never happened for me. Like at that point in my life I just didn't connect with any bands, but I like was so obsessed with it I like eventually bought my own drum kit, and I was like trying to play, because I always wanted to play drums, and I wasn't that good actually. Like I realized after I met Jim like how kind of like really didn't understand a certain thing about the drums, but that's come a long way. Different story, but yeah, skating introduced me. Flint plays like a critical role in Bev.Clone for sure.
Yeah, Flint was like a gateway. I know like you guys from Kalamazoo, like we're kind of sitting pretty in between Chicago and Detroit, so a lot of good shows would come through Kalamazoo, like even back in the 80s. I mean, I've seen a bunch of stuff like, Black Flag coming through, and the
Discharge
bands from back then, and like Violent Apathy was from Kalamazoo, and they played a big part in that scene, I think. But up in Bay City, Saginaw, we didn't like have bands like that coming through or even coming up to play. So like Flint was the gateway. I mean, I think Flint was about as far north as most bands would come in Michigan. Maybe Lansing, I guess. And I don't know if Lansing is like a little bit north of Flint on a map or whatever, but yeah, mostly like Flint was about as far north as bands would play. And I know like at that the basement of the Capitol, they called it the Fallout Shelter, and that's where a lot of these shows would happen in Flint during those years, those like late 80s, early 90s years. And I know like when Born Against and Rorschach toured, maybe in 91 or something. Yeah, they came up to Flint.
Were you at that?
I wasn't at that. You were at that? See, I didn't even know that.
It was a great show. And that was the second show I went to in Flint. And it wasn't in the basement this time. It was on the stage, but they closed the curtain and went sideways and just set up the band on the one side and the crowd on the other side. And when I walked in, Born Against was playing. And this guy's rolling around the floor, and I was kind of like, what the fuck's going on, man? No one can move. This guy's taking all the room, rolling around on the floor, no one can move. And I didn't know that. I'd be super into Born Against a couple years later, and it, you know what I mean? It was just weird. So I seen him, but I didn't like it.
Well, and Chain of Strength played in Flint, if I'm not mistaken, as well, like at the Capitol Theater.
Yeah, they did.
I met Frosty 2 months ago in L.A.
Wow.
From Chain of Strength. Frosty was a guitar player. I met him at Chad Keplinger's art show.
Oh, sweet.
And I was like, who's this guy? He's just had that kind of greaser SoCal style. I could tell he was probably still straight edge because he just, he was serious. He was looking at me like, like this dude, and I'm just like, hey, I'm just coming to see my buddy. He's doing this art show. I haven't seen him in 25 years. It's weird, but Chain of Strength, Flint had a lot of punk. They didn't have too much straight edge oriented hardcore, I think. I think you had to go down to Grounds for that,
Yeah.
Going down to Detroit for those kind of shows.
Yep.
Yeah.
How far was Detroit from like Saginaw? What, like an hour and a half?
Yep.
About that,
Yeah.
Yeah. Which wasn't, it wasn't the drive usually that deterred people from going down to Detroit. It was
Detroit.
you know, I remember Scotty from Bev.Clone, and I really had wanted to go see Fugazi play. It was the time they played with Nation of Ulysses, and I think the opener was a Michigan ska band called Gangster Fun. And that was somewhere like in downtown Detroit. I can't remember what theater or place it was at. And Scott had to borrow his dad's car in order to go. And mistakenly told him, where we were going to take his car, and he was like, "No, Scotty, there's no way you're going down to Detroit. You're not parking this car anywhere within the city limits." And so we were just like, "Okay, we can't go."
Real valuable car.
It was like a sports Toyota Celica, like a sports car. It was pretty hot.
The yellow one.
The yellow one.
Yeah.
So, Scott's dad Rudy was like really into his car and didn't want it, getting jacked in Detroit. So we missed Fugazi that time around, but at least I got to see him a few times.
Wow. Every Michigan punk kid has like at least one Detroit story because and they're always good. They're always kind of similar too. It's like you're either afraid of getting jumped or you get jumped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to go to Detroit for that, though. Saginaw and Flint had plenty of jumpings.
Yeah, there have been jumpings all over. Grand Rapids, we talked about that in the egg.
Yeah, we as in the earlier episode with Agna Moraines, we've definitely established that Grand Rapids was a little unsavory.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember you couldn't walk out the front door of the Bev.Clone house and take a right. You had to go left. If you took a right, you would get punched, and it happened to about 5 different people.
Hey,
and I literally would have to warn them, like, do not go turn right, and they would for whatever reason, and boom.
I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I want to ask you about this because I think I remember you telling me this, Ben. When, at the Bev.Clone house, when Jason Adams and Aragorn were living there, wouldn't, Jason Adams, to get back at Aragorn, when Aragorn was gone, he would cook meat and
oh no, I don't want to. That wasn't Jason Adams. That was a different Jason. I'll let his last name go nameless.
Jason from Larvae.
No. It was Kreska.
Oh, Kreska.
Yeah, so much for keeping him anonymous. But Kreska cooked meat in. The craziest thing too was it wasn't even meat that we had bought. It was they had stolen meat at a party in Bay City and brought it all the way to Grand Rapids. And Jay was like, "Fuck yeah, Aragorn's gone. I hate this dude. I'm gonna cook some meat in his pans," because he was always talking about his pans. It was like his
he was really into his cast irons. Yeah.
That was his stuff, and he was so into that. And Jay just took those pans and threw some hams or whatever the hell in there and cooked them up.
Oh God, that's amazing.
But yeah, that was quite a time when that was like the winter without heat that Bomb's Lullaby kind of practiced in and stuff had to do with those times when people weren't paying bills, and the Bev.Clone house kind of became like a what do you call it? Just a flop house for a few months, and then that party happened where everybody got attacked, and then it was just shut down after that. We were
out of era.
Yeah. That house had some cool shows. We had it was 95 most of the shows we had there, and some into early 96, and it was like the era of the 3-word band names. So there was Boy Sets Fire,
I Am Heaven.
I Am Heaven played there, and Ho's Got Cable. And they played there too.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy fuck. I remember seeing them at the Enclave, It's like, damn, these guys are awesome.
Yeah.
That one man, Hazel, played there.
Yeah, Hazel.
Yeah, Hazel, the Sub Pop band.
That was weird.
They were kind of more like an indie rock, Sub Pop band. And they played. I think it was Nicole actually had some connections at the library, and
that's why that happened.
No, Marie set it up.
Marie did. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know how she did it, but she was the one that set that up.
Does anyone keep in contact with Marie?
Nope. I looked her up. I think she's still alive. That's all I know.
From my understanding, she's a pretty established artist, but that's about all I know.
That would be good because I don't think the stripper thing was working for her. You know, that's the last time I saw her. She's like, I work at a strip club in Seattle. I'm like, dude, what's going on? But no, that's cool, man. Hey, Rich, I gotta ask you and Ian. You know, both you guys. Did you guys ever play at that house?
No.
The Bev.Clone house?
Yeah.
Yes, at least once.
We did?
We had. Yeah,
We
remember that weekend?
Or another band.
Yeah, it was us and Inso Gray. What had happened is, as I recall, was there was this weekend where we were booked to play in Grand Haven. Actually, with you guys, it was us. Yep, at us and you guys, and I want to say Mainspring played.
Okay.
And our van broke down somewhere between, like, I think somewhere between Otsego and Allegan on our way up to Grand Haven. And so we were just like, we had to call, my mom lived in Otsego, so we called like Scott Johnson or Adam Mullet, whoever was doing the show, and was like, yeah, we can't make it, our van broke down. And he actually had a friend of his drive his parents' minivan down to Otsego to pick us up. And so we ended up playing the show, I think, on borrowed gear, and the van got fixed real quickly. I think Sean Barney from the Deconstruction had helped Chris. And anyways, the night of that Grand Haven show, I think Ben had offered us, hey, we're going to do a show tomorrow night at the house, so do you guys want to play? So we played there at least once. I remember being at least 2 shows there. It was another show that was kind of more just like a house party. I don't know if you were there, Ian, but I definitely was. It was Bev.Clone and kind of a like indie rock band that I think you were friends with, Ben, but I don't remember.
Oh yeah, Slow Decline. And that was Mike Newhouse's.
Oh, okay, yeah. Rest in peace.
Yeah, R.I.P. Mike. And Mound also played that show.
Okay, yeah.
Mound was a great Grand Rapids band that was kind of short-lived, but our friend Chad Smith, who's he's a Chicago police person now, right?
Detective.
Chad Smith, he played in this band Mound, and they were just this great kind of noise rock band, real heavy.
Yeah, it felt heavy.
I remember the drummer stood up. The drummer just stood and played.
Yeah, he still does it the same way.
Does he really?
Him and Chad still play together.
Do they?
He still does it the same way.
Holy cow!
I ran into that guy in Detroit.
It's called Bruised and Battered or something.
Huh? Sweet.
I'm not sure.
That guy.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, I ran into him at this really cool show at this art space in Detroit one time.
Nice.
Oh, so we're getting way off track here.
Yeah, all right.
No, this is what we do. Yeah.
So hold on, I'm going to ask you guys another question because I know it doesn't go that way too much. So the first time we met you guys, can we talk about that night? It's important.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Yes, that's a good one.
Can I do the segue?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So I remember the lineup. I remember the venue. Maybe October-ish, 1994.
Yes.
Hellbender, Naked Aggression, and Constantine.
That's right.
Yep.
And you guys took about 30 seconds to knock over the amps. Total collapse in the first song. And I was like, right on, these guys are going to get it. They're going to get it. It might take a minute, but they'll get it. And then we all met. You know, it was cool. That was the night we met. I met Christopher first, I think, and he was like, I don't know, just talking about, he's like, some guy was bumming change from him outside, and he's like, oh, I'm 16, man, I got a job, I paid for my van, you know what I mean? I was like, right on, this guy's cool. And then, you know, it was cool how we met at a random kind of show. That's how they were in Grand Rapids. They were always just random at that place.
We weren't even booked on it.
Yep. Yeah. What's that?
We weren't even booked on it. I think Jason Adams had said to us, like, hey,
just show up.
Come, just show up. They'll put you on.
Were you guys friends with, you guys knew, did TJ, was he the promoter, or who brought in Hellbender?
I think Hellbender also just sort of jumped on. Like, it was a weird show. Like,
it was a Naked Aggression show that they just threw other bands on, or what?
Yeah, it was really weird. Like, in fact, we used mostly borrowed gear. I want to say that, like, we borrowed Jeff Baird's head and amp, which I, like you said, 30 seconds into the set, knocked over. And,
Yep.
Yeah, you and Chris kind of like launched into each other.
Oh, yeah, no, the stage became a trampoline, and all of a sudden it wasn't flat, it was bouncing, and then it just, And I remember
that,
Joe just standing there in like shame, and his girlfriend standing right in front of him, looking at him, going, "Oh my god!"
Honestly, like, there's something freeing about, like, at least I think I definitely did, and I'm pretty certain even Chris, and like, our attitude was, we don't really care if we sound good tonight. Everybody in this room is fucking drunk,
Right.
so we're just going to fucking like go off. And like, guess what? The drunks loved it.
Sure. Yeah. No. If you were making a mess in there, it was going over very well. Yeah. Anybody.
I went to a show. So my understanding is, so there's a venue in Grand Rapids now called Skeletones.
Yep. It just reopened after about 10 years of being closed.
Yeah. I went to a show there last year, actually, and and from my understanding, that's part of the Enclave, like the basement where they do. Yeah. Which is weird because it's a really
check it
nice
out. Yeah,
space.
everything else there got built up and redeveloped, and
Yeah, but you know what? That neighborhood has so it has Vertigo, which is a really, really good record store, and then there's the venue, and there's all kinds of kind of high end boutiques around there. But then the thing is it's still grimy because they have that homeless soup kitchen right across the way. So it's it's probably one of the sketchiest places I've seen a show in years in Grand Rapids, Michigan, of all places.
Skeletones, all these years later.
Carl used to live right over there, on the same block.
I lived a block down from the homeless shelter, for 5 years.
Yeah, when you lived in Grand Rapids.
Which, to be clear, it's not me saying anything bad about a homeless shelter being there. It's just that no matter how gentrified it fucking gets, it'll never,
No, you could say the same thing in San Francisco and all these cities where just kind of these old neighborhoods are just going to stay the same because that's just where those people have been and where they keep them, and Yeah, Division's still like that. It's still rough, It's all developed and modernized and these fancy bus stations and all this stuff, but it's it's still rough.
It's just people need resources just sitting there.
Well, it's I went to the show and then I went out in my car for some reason and I parked my car, and I parked my car, there was 2 teenage kids chasing another teenage kid directly in front of oncoming traffic, and then picked up Vertigo has this metal sign outside their door. One of the kids picked it up and threw it at the kid. I was holy shit, I haven't seen this kind of shit in years.
That's a Grand Rapids thing or something. After that big attack thing at the Bev.Clone house, when we had to clear out of there, there was sort of a riot developing that next morning when we were all trying to move out. We're loading our stuff out, and a group of people in the neighborhood was gathering, and they took the street sign off that said Hollister, because that was our address was 24/7 Hollister. And they took the Hollister sign off and were parading it around, on people's shoulders and stuff. Face, whatever, and we were just and we're getting the fuck out. Help, please.
2 years later, get the fuck out. And I remember the morning we moved into that house. We loaded up the U-Haul from Bay City, Saginaw, and rode across town. We rolled into the driveway. And Tommy's driving, he had a big John Lydon kind of look, big red frizzy hair, and this lady goes, "Man, you don't want no red-haired white motherfuckers living around here." Indication how this is going to go.
And it kind of went that way. I mean, especially if you walked out the door and turned right.
Yep. No. I know Tommy, rest in peace, would laugh about that shit, man, because he was laughing.
Yeah.
He was laughing. He's like, "Okay, we making the right decision here, boys, as we're pulling into the driveway."
Yeah, that was an interesting time.
It worked out.
Yeah.
It did. We made some friends in that neighborhood too. It wasn't like they all hated us, but having punk rock shows and house parties and stuff in a neighborhood isn't the best idea for anyone, as my 48-year-old dad body says.
Yeah. So I know Karl didn't live in that house, but was everyone else, at least initially, living in that house? Or
Yeah, initially.
Yeah. Tommy got the small room, Ben had the big room, and me and Scott shared the medium room, I think, or something like that. Or maybe he had the
guys had,
medium.
like, a bigger room
Yeah,
than
we all
us. You had to share.
drew names to see who was going to have to live with each other,
Yeah, when did Scott move back up to Bay City? Like, that didn't take that long.
It didn't take too
About a
long.
year, probably a year later.
Yeah, probably
Maybe a
8 months
year,
or so.
okay.
Yeah, a year. Yeah, that was kind of the thing with that whole idea was, we started in Bay City and Saginaw, and we were like, we need to move somewhere else to do anything with this band.
Right.
There just wasn't. There was shows in Flint and Saginaw, and that's what we did a lot.
Yeah, we just weren't making any connections outside of the little scene, And in Grand Rapids, we did meet people from out of town, like you guys and other people that were kind of doing what we were trying to get to,
Yeah, it was a place where we could kind of branch out a little farther and go play more shows and, get involved in the actual, hardcore scene at the time, too. Because before that,
That was the hope, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't know as much about that type of scene until we moved to Grand Rapids.
Right.
which is weird because Grand Rapids at that time was such a crust punk drunk scene. And you guys were, even though you weren't a straight edge band, you clearly were not
But
that.
but they loved us, man. That's the thing. They loved it. They're like, cool, something a little bit different, a new energy, a new vibe, and they liked it. So we kind of fit in that scene. It was funny because we could have more fun and not have to be super serious. It's like we're playing with guys and Larvae and bands like that, cool dudes, just crazy dudes and.
Yeah,
meeting people named Shitbong.
that was Jeff Baird. Had a friend that would go around with him, he was kind of his little sidekick, and
we called him Shitbong.
Yeah, he called him Shitbong.
That was his name.
That was his name. He liked it. It was kind of weird. I remember some of those kids, the Grand Rapids punks were so nice, but they were of that gutter drunk punk variety where they just didn't care. And I remember meeting one of them, and he introduced himself. He said, "Hi, my name's Phil, but you can call me Dirt." Nice to meet you, Phil. Yeah. I don't want to call you Dirt, man. That's
a nice boy from Bay City.
Well, yeah, So Jeff Baird, always really nice, but every single time I met him, I had to reintroduce myself. He'd always, I think what he would say was always "Oh man, I must have had my beer goggles on."
I hear that, Rich. I had a problem 3 years ago at Sleep and Big Business up there at the intersection. I'm like, "What's up, man?" He's like, "Dude, I used to play in Bev.Clone." "Oh yeah, Bev.Clone. I remember you guys. You guys all the time, right?" So this is the early part of the show. End of the show, we're all back. I'm like, "What's up, Jeff?" And he just threw a beer at me and was like, "Who are you?" Yeah. Still the same, man. I gotta love it.
Well, and do you remember that guy Roach? He was in, I think they were called System Analysis.
Yes, System Analysis.
Both those guys are cool. That was a good band. They were good.
They were good.
No, they were really good. And we played with them in Marshall. And at the end of our set, Roach came up to me with tears in his eyes. Was "You guys were really good, man." And that really touched me. I'm like, this dude who's never heard this kind of style of hardcore punk, he just fucks with Crass and Doom. But anyways, the point is I saw him a month or two later at Radio Kilroy in Grand Rapids, and I smiled at him and he kept kind of caught each other's eyes, and then he came up to me finally. He's like, "What's up, man? My name is Roach." I was like, "Yeah, we met a couple of months ago." Oh God, yeah.
They were a good band. They were kind of like one of the little shining bands in that scene. I don't know, they had like a cool drive and just like a cool vibe. I only saw them once. I think we only played with them once, but they were pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, how did going back in time now, like, how did Bev.Clone come together as a band?
Well, that, I think, I kind of gave away on the Agna episode that Scott and Tom and I had a band originally called Second Sight, and the drummer...
Glass Slipper?
yeah, it was during the Glass Slipper period. And the drummer was our friend Mike Christie from Bay City and then Grand Rapids. And I think we had asked Mike to, an idea for a band name, because we were kind of going through them and just weren't coming up with anything. And he was like, I know, Second Sight. And he told us it had something to do with Peter Criss, or like something to do with Kiss's solo stuff.
What the?
Yeah, and I've looked online since to try to find out what Second Sight was. Was it a song on an album or what? And I haven't really seen anything about it, so I don't know. But we were kind of like, for us, Mike was the only drummer we knew at the time, and we were kind of like, we got to keep Mike involved in the band and interested and stuff, so let's go with the name that he chooses. So we're kind of stuck with that band name for a few, maybe it was about a year or so, and then I think that's when we kind of met Jim and Karl shortly after that, and we changed our name to Gage.
I had seen Second Sight a bunch of times, and knew the band and met these guys through some friends. And I don't know why Mike quit, and whatever. I'm cool with Mike, but Mike's always been like, you're the new drummer. It's like this funny ongoing thing for like 20-something years. Oh yeah, you will replace me. Anyways, so no, I think after Second Sight they had a set, and when I started playing with them, we were trying to change the set, and it just made sense to change the name as well.
And that's Karl I got invited in because I had ended up in this big ass house that Tom and I were living in with like his brother and all these random people, and this huge fucking old school mansion on the east side of Saginaw. And Gage was practicing in the basement. It must have been Gage still at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
They asked me to join because they were trying to like become something else.
Yeah, it was. We settled on Gage for the name because we had loved that movie Pet Sematary at the time, and the boy's name was Gage, and it was like Gage. And then it took us maybe a year or so of playing as Gage to find out that there was a Chicago band in the punk scene called Gage. So
different spelling, but
different spelling, but kind of way too close for comfort. So then we kind of really quick switched our name to Gainsay, which I've actually got the
in tribute to Joel Wick
cover here.
What Gainsay demo right here?
And then we were talking to Jim McInerney, and Jim was like, "Oh, Gainsay, that's the name of Joel Wick's distribution or something." And so we were like, shit, we can't use that name either. Now we have to come up with something new. And that's where the Bev.Clone thing kind of finally came. We settled on. It was just something that was unique enough not for somebody else to have that name.
That's Jim's address. Does he even remember this name? He hasn't said anything about Gainsay.
I don't know. We'll have to show him. That's Jim fine. Went on a little break, but we'll show him that when he comes back.
So... Actually, I heard a rumor on the naming of Bev.Clone. I think Joe Mattson had told me this, and it might have, I don't know. So what I heard was that you guys were kind of like trying to figure out what you were going to name yourselves, and part of the band wanted to name you guys Beverly, and the other part wanted to name yourselves Clone, and you chose Bev.Clone as a compromise. Does that sound right? Or
there's some truth to that, because I remember I was the one that was obsessed with Beverly, because there was this place in Bay City. It was like Beverly's Tailoring or something, and I was always like, "Oh, Beverly's the best name," and everyone was like, "I don't know."
I mean, we've already been called Second Sight, Gage, like
Gage from Michigan, not Gage from Chicago. The other Gage.
So
G-A-G, not G-A-G.
Yeah, so I don't think we were like really wanted to settle with Beverly as like the next,
but what you had said was like you were reading a book and there was a character in the book called Bev, right?
Oh.
And
Yeah,
we
yeah.
just kind of
Where did the
abbreviated
clone
it.
come from? I don't even remember that part.
It might have had to do with the book. I wonder if it was.
Why Bev.Clone?
I think you just thought it sounded cool. And Bev, I don't know, man. It's weird. Maybe we're like a precursor to that .com shit. You know what I mean? Bev.Clone. I don't know what it was for. It was...
No one else, yeah.
Yeah, I think we really just wanted to have something unique enough that we didn't have to
Right.
try to change the name again.
Yeah, it had a cool ring.
Yeah.
So
That's
Rich,
why we got into the 3-word names of after that.
Yeah, right.
you had to be more depth or with more. So how come it's Constantine? Or how come
Okay.
it was Constantine? What's the...
That's-
I'm sorry, how come
that's
there was...
pretty much- Yeah, that's pretty much a Christopher Sprague thing.
Just like to sound like he had an accent or something?
I don't really. So like, he liked the name of the town in Michigan, Constantine.
Right, just south of here where we're at, Kalamazoo,
Yeah.
south, right?
It's pretty
Yeah.
south of here.
Yeah, and but for some reason, I don't know if it was intentional misspelling or if he just didn't know how to spell. I think it was an intentional misspelling.
It was already
then-
written down and you made a patch of it already, so...
Well, what's funny is we were initially going to call ourselves "Fucked in the Head."
Wow.
Like,
It just rolls
there's-
off the tongue, by the way.
Which I don't know. I mean, but anyway, so like the Sincati part was also, I think, Chris and Joe making up words. I mean, I think we've all probably read Christopher's zines from when he was a teenager. They are very
Like-
creative, very bizarre.
Collage kind of.
Yeah, and kind of very, very stream of thought, stream of consciousness type stuff. But anyways, I think Joe and him sat down and just came up with the Sincati. And then Chris and Joe also came up with a mythology behind the name, which was that it was a pirate ship carrying East Indian boys to the time between boyhood and manhood.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Where did Cormac come in or fit in?
That was Joe, wasn't it?
That was Joe, but my guess is either Joe or Chris happened to somehow maybe be in a library or something and saw a book by Cormac McCarthy and decided that was, that was the name possibly. I don't even know. Honestly, that's the thing, like with our, there's a lot of things we don't know why they work.
Basically,
Because
what
we're
it was,
just kind of like, we like music. I mean, I'm sensitive and all, but like, I'm not, I
basically
don't.
what it was is
Yeah.
if you caught both of them laughing about something, it would eventually become something.
Okay.
Seriously, like that just happened a lot.
I mean, band names are hard, Like you could go over it for months and months and months and not even have the right one. But no, it's cool if you have like kind of a unique story or a random, or if it's a mystery how the name came,
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, he had I think he had sorry, 1 second. I think he had written the name on his sleeping bag. I think I had that sleeping bag at some point, in fact. Like
One of one.
one, yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, like, we're kind of laughing about it, but the truth is, like, it was kind of a gift to be in a band with such, like both creative and bizarre individuals as Chris and Joe.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, they
That's how
kind of
I've
like
always felt too. Around.
they kind of like neutralized each other enough to where it wasn't too much, but it was like right on the edge. And then we're just in the back seat going, "Yeah, sure, fuck it, that's fine." Pirate ship.
Yeah, I'm
sounds
just
great.
like, let's talk about Kiss or like Born Against or Youth of Today or something. Like,
yeah.
yeah. But well, so the we met you guys at the show at the Enclave. But what really cemented our relationship between us as bands and as people was the show in your basement, Jim.
Yeah, my parents, they took my brother to a spelling bee in Indianapolis, and I wanted to help them band. So.
Well, and then I could be wrong, but I remember talking to you on the phone after this, and I think they figured out eventually that you had a show, and then you decide, okay, I'll show you a video of the show. And there was some point where someone was eating, like your brother got back and was angry that someone had eaten his Cheez-Its.
No, yeah, I had to feed the main band. I had to feed them falafels and Cheez-Its, part of the contract. Day 28.
Yeah.
There was a band from Lansing, Michigan, a female band. Pretty cool.
Yes.
Yep.
They went on to be in other bands, certain members. I think the bass player was in Erase Errata.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Actually, I was a surprise to me, but I don't know about the other members. But they were pretty cool. And I was like kind of just down to support that kind of shit too,
Yeah. They were more of a rock band, if I remember right.
Yeah, just kind of a refined, kind of just indie-ish kind of. They had potential. I don't know what happened, but.
And they covered Fairies Wear Boots, that I remember.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And then your sister's band and some friends of hers from University of Chicago, if I recall.
Yeah, she heard that I was having a party, and of course she had to bring a band from there to crash the show,
What band was that?
I think they were called Stregonona.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yes,
one of
that
those,
sounds right.
one of those guys went on to be in a band that was from San Francisco that got kind of big. I just forget the name, man. But no, they were all right. Ran to him, and he's like, "Hey, remember me? I played in your basement. Hey, what's up, dude?"
Did your sister play in a band with the guy from Scene? Was it Suya?
No, she was in a band with a friend of his, and he produced a 7-inch for them.
Oh, okay.
Yep. But no, my sister's band didn't play. She just brought her friend's band to come. But
Oh, okay. There were two bands though from there, because one of them was kind of like a K Records type of band where there was, I think, a singer pop. And then
right.
Yeah.
It was a good party, man. I mean, we weren't partying, but it was a good show, whatever you call it.
Yeah, it was a straight edge party.
No, it was good. I wasn't into that shit back then. I wanted just to invite people to my parents' house to see a show and not to party.
Yeah. Well, that's the first time I ever had falafel.
I would have a bash there, but.
No, that was the first time I ever had falafel in my life. Actually, was at that.
Oh,
show.
really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My buddy Eric, he was working at the health food store in town, and he was into the falafel and kind of got that going. And right on. That's awesome.
Yeah,
The first place you had falafel was in my parents' old kitchen.
Yes.
That's funny. The first time I ever had samosas was at Gordon Dufresne's parents' house.
Oh shit! Nice.
That's a good segue to the next era, the Gordon era. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, it's like the next year, 95. We're in 95.
We put out that first 7-inch, the self-titled, and that was DIY for sure. We did. Jim, you had a lot to do with that. I think.
I didn't know what I was doing, but I just called the people and sent the shit.
And then for the artwork, we chose that. Was it Dave McKean?
Sorry, Dave.
Yeah.
I didn't know how it works.
Slice of his art. I don't think anybody's ever called us out for that.
One guy did in Hamtramck. He's like, "Oh, I'm friends with Dave. He wouldn't care." He's like, "That's so cool." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, man. We don't know how to do it. We just thought if you're in a punk band, you scan something and just reprint it, and that's your cover."
Yeah. And we had screen printing help from this guy, Taras, who...
Rest in peace.
Yeah, Taras passed quite a while ago now, I think. But he was a big help introducing us to some of the people in the Grand Rapids punk scene.
Yeah, he was a good old friend of Aragorn's.
That's right. Yeah, him and Aragorn were
I remember that dude. And what was that other dude? Tim
Pendergast.
Yeah.
He's a good drummer.
He probably still works for the Grand Rapids.
He does, I think. I think he does. Yeah, Tim's awesome. And so that's how we met Aragorn and Taras. I think. Did you guys hear that he died by immolating himself?
Wow. If you're sick, you're sick.
Yeah. He was.
Holy shit.
Yeah, he was pretty extreme.
He was radical. He did radical shit. He was into the kind of like fuck shit up mode.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
take it to the man.
A lot of retail fraud was maybe happening at points.
Yeah, I remember he had
pointers on shoplifting and being successful at it. Now
he told me
I was just like, I don't.
He told me how to do Kinko's free. He told me the ropes, how to do Kinko's free.
Yeah, that was the days of the counters at Kinko's.
Well, and as I recall with Aragorn, who also has passed,
Rest in peace, Aragorn.
Yeah, apparently he had a stroke and survived it. He had a stroke, he legally died, and then he came back to life.
Yeah.
And then a few months later, I guess, he had the big one.
The same.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy, he's stirred up a lot of controversy, like especially among our friends. And
Well, in both you and I.
I appreciated what he brought to my life at the time with politics.
Right, I agree.
So like my introduction to anarchism and situationism and all that kind of stuff. And there's like a special place in my heart for him just because of that. But the other stuff he was getting up to with relationships, and things that was not real cool.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we're not talking trash on the guy. He's dead. We respect him in ways, but yeah, he had issues, and those were repetitive issues. It was repeated behavior happening in different places, and whatever. But yeah, it's funny how you meet people like that, and they're like important for a reason, and then they're kind of like meant to teach you some lessons, maybe, how not to act or how to, I don't know. Yeah. Interesting. Well, we met him the same night we met you guys. He was at that show. We're like, who's this guy from? He's like, I used to book the Fake Cafe in San Diego. I'm from San Diego. I'm from Sacramento. I know the Yamos. I hate those guys. I wrote whoa, yeah, he's a Cali guy. Yeah.
Yeah, well, so like Ben and I both, like, more so than the rest of us, like, we're kind of had a mentor/mentee relationship with Aragorn. In both cases, it like went south. Like eventually, like, we were just like, no. But he had a lot of charisma. He definitely had an army of people. There was like I said, me and Ben, and then there was even Marie. And that's
Yeah, there was a group of us that really kind of latched on to what he was selling, and that was the thing. He wasn't like selling anything at all. In fact, he was kind of opening our eyes to a bigger, better world in a lot of ways. I think it's just that's a world you really have to fight for to get and to live in, and some of those battles it was just tough. I remember we tried to start a anti-racist action group in Grand Rapids with Aragorn and I and like Jason Adams, and then a bunch of the Grand Rapids drunk punk kids, and that went south after like the first two. I think we got through 2 meetings, and the second meeting, and we ended up going down to throw eggs at the Ku Klux Klan when they showed up in Grand Rapids one summer, but. So we got that accomplished, but that was about it. After that second meeting, the drunk punk kids all kind of got together and decided that Aragorn must be an FBI plant.
Yeah, he was too square.
Yeah, the Patriot Act had just been passed. This was the Clinton era, and the Patriot Act had just been passed, and he was raving about that, just like against that. And the drunk punks were like, "No, there's something. He's got to be an FBI plant. He's too clean cut. He's too straight. There's no way he's not a cop." So we couldn't keep that group going.
Wow. Yeah,
I saw him semi recently. I would say probably 2016. I was in Chicago with my daughter, taking the Blue Line train out west to my sister's from downtown or something. And Aragorn was on the train, and I saw him, and then I looked away. I'm like, I don't want this. I don't need this. No, I don't. He looked at me, and he kind of made that confrontational face with a little smile, and like, do you remember me?
Yeah.
Nope, I'm not talking to you, dude. It's just, I'm like, I got my daughter here. I got my sister, and you're a creep for women, I think. So I'm not talking to you. And I didn't say nothing. And I felt bad about it after hearing that he had died and that, but it's like shit, man.
That's how I would have reacted. I'm sure.
Yeah, I didn't want to say nothing to him.
He hadn't really become a more likable character in his old age either, to be honest, though. From my understanding, he kind of veered towards some weird, pseudo right-wing, kind of stuff.
Really? Hardline shit? Yeah.
Well, no, more just, very, critical of, everything to the point where it's like, yeah, what you're saying kind of comes off as a little bit racist, or, that kind of thing. So. Yeah, that weird thing where the left and right sort of eventually sometimes.
They meet her on the other side.
Yeah, that stuff's weird. You had introduced me to some of that kind of stuff more recently, Rich, when you were telling me about, what do they call it, the cosmic right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, whew.
Yeah, those folks are fucked.
I don't get it, man. I don't.
I mean, we played a few shows together. We did that split. Who did the art for that split, by the way?
You guys did it. Probably
Did
Joe.
Joe.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
So what? Joe had borrowed the drawing of a tree, I think, from a book in the Kalamazoo library, and he had photocopied it, and then he drew in the CSBC thing.
That's awesome.
True love forever, man. Always, or whatever.
Which honestly is kind of a genius idea, but like,
Hell yeah, man.
And if my memory serves correctly as well, Jim, you had sat like watching TV game shows with a TV tray putting together those covers.
Yeah, just pasting them up. That was like my thing. I worked at the library at that time. I was putting the covers on the books, and I would just sit there and do that. And then at home, I could do it. Just start pasting them up, putting them together, send them off to Gordon, and he had something to print them up. And that was a pretty easy project. It was like really easy to get that record out, We all had a little part to play in it. And it came out, and all the recordings were pretty cool, like good mixes, good stuff. No weird shit. It was a good one.
No,
Was that the record?
Mike
Did we get to pick that up at the manufacturer with Gord?
No.
Okay,
Wait, I don't know about that, but
When we went up and played in Canada a couple of shows, we played in Toronto and then went up to Ottawa and played. And during that time, at some point, we went to a record plant with Gord and picked something up.
Yeah?
really?
Yeah, but I don't know if it was that Bev.Clone or
well, and there was
not.
a
else?
time.
So we put out Agna.
Oh, maybe it was that. Maybe it was one of them then. I don't think it was the Bev.Clone stuff. I don't think when we met him, we just met him, and we agreed on that trip to kind of do something.
That's true. Yep. So okay, so we sent him up there.
No, but that guy Gordon, I don't have too much contact with him. A little bit here and there over the years,
Yeah.
But seems like he still does a pretty cool label and is involved in kind of just doing his same style.
Oh yeah. I guess I'm kind of Facebook friends with him. I haven't really talked to him very much, but like, he seems to be the same Gord, just gray and old.
Yeah, like
as we all are.
Nah, super cool guy, man. Super nice guy, positive energy, good vibes. Like people like that are awesome. That's what makes the scene, just the good guys, the happy dudes that are into it for like the right reasons.
Always a good spirit, like super smiley. Love that kid.
Did you go up and stay with Gord like right after we met him for a few days?
Okay. I had seen him here and there at different festivals and shows and stuff, but that was the only time I kicked it with him in Canada. I think, or when we met him, or when we went back there and played there again for our last show. I think we were kicking it, but
So
last show.
why did you guys break up? Because January or February of '96. Our last show was in Mississauga, Ontario, opening up for grade at a church.
Oh yeah, Unitarian Church.
That was the last one, and it was weird. We didn't know why, or there was reasons, or not, or just. But that was the last show, and it was uneventful, pretty cool. I don't know how good we played, or it was just weird. We kind of just knew. I don't know.
I liked Grade.
Grade was a good band. They had a good energy, a good vibe. Like they were pretty cool.
Because what I remember is like Constantine played that fest in Toronto, and you guys were supposed to play.
Yeah, we were supposed to play that. Some of us
and it didn't happen.
He had to cancel. He went. It was a good one. We wish we could have, but just we had sick people in the band or something like.
We were kind of bummed because we looked forward to playing with you guys at that.
Right. No, it would have been one of the best lineups we were ever on, and we didn't get to do it. Maybe that's kind of the beginning of the end. I don't know. Not really, but it's just like shit happens like that. Pieces fall away or drift apart or don't line up, and that's
such a dope show to play.
Oh, I know.
It was good. Yeah,
There's
you guys rocked it. That was a good show.
That was a great. I mean, there were so many good Constantine shows, but you lose them.
No, we got it. There's video of like Namaz set from that show.
That was good too.
And it was pretty great. And I think Chokehold set.
Chokehold played at it. Union of Uranus.
Oh yeah, Union of Uranus. Yeah.
You guys great.
Minnow. Three Studies. Yep, Coleman. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, I want to talk to that guy.
What's
Matt.
that?
The singer from Three Studies.
Matt Miner.
Matt Miner.
What's he doing?
Yeah. He owns a grocery store in Columbus, actually.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
All right.
He
Mini
actually,
Super.
you know what? I came across his Discogs, and he has one of the Constantine Cincotti records. And in the description, I think he says something like, "These boys sure are sensitive." some wild shit like that. Like if I was 10 years younger or 20 years younger, I might have been somewhat offended by that. Like, oh, he's trying to make fun of us. But like now, I'm like, yeah. I mean, what can you do?
Can you agree, Rich?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you were with us for a lot. Like both you and Ben, and I think Karl too. But like, you were around for a lot. We fought a lot about dumb shit, and it was never like tough guy arguing. It was just like, you hurt my feelings. I'm so mad.
Oh god,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
a healthy amount of that in Agna for sure.
Right?
yeah. And Bev.Clone, you know.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. That's fun.
Yeah.
I think I remember, Karl. You were with us at that fest in Toronto, weren't you, Karl? I'm pretty
I
sure
was there.
Jim was.
I was there. Yeah.
I remember
'cause I
going.
remember-
We went to this Chinese place because you guys were
Yeah.
all, you could get all the fake everything you could get, and we all
Yeah.
Fin soup.
yeah, just like every fake flavor of everything, and we were like, I just remember Rich, you were just like just getting it's so much food, just like all these.
Yeah, I was stoked. Yeah.
It was good. I remember it being really good.
This is the thing I remember why you were with us is because I think Zian was hungry and you were like, "Oh, hey, I have some Mike and Ike's," and that's I don't know why that sticks with me, but that's just the memory that you gave Ian Mike and Ike's.
What the?